What's up YouTube, this is Hope for Tutorialseu.
It's Denise for Tutorialseu. Or maybe it is little Dennis
for Tutorialseu, whatever. So we're going to build this little application today, which is a broadcasting application where you can broadcast your voice and receive it with a different device. So this is the broadcasting device, and my emulator on the PC is the receiver, who is now what you can hear in the background. So maybe it's a little asynchronous because there's a little like super tiny lag, but that's how it works. And then we have a very powerful little application that we're going to build just in half an hour. Pretty cool. We're going to do that using the AgoraIO SDK, which is available for free for up to 10,000 minutes of broadcasting. That's quite a bit. So I'm super hyped to teach you that. And AgoraIO is also the sponsor of this video. So thanks a lot to them. And I hope you are as excited as I am, because I think this is an amazing little application. So I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button now, because it helps us out with the channel so that we can create more of these cool little videos, as well as subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're uploading all kinds of pretty cool and entertaining programming projects, so don't miss out and subscribe. And now let's get started. The first thing that we see here is that I already have prepared the user interface, and that's what we're going to work with. So you see we have a little card here at the top that has a text inside of it. Then we have a text edit box where we can enter a channel name, and we have this recording button as well as multiple other ones that we can work with. And this is a very simple user interface. You can download the project. You can find the GitHub repository link in the description down below, and you can then go through the to-do steps if you want to follow along and understand what is going on, because we have commented everything here step by step if you want to follow along with the order and structure of how the user interface was built. Okay, but now the next thing that we want to look at is going to be how to actually set up the functionality, and therefore we're going to use AgoraIO. And you can go to the documentation on their website, and you can directly see that the documentation has a quick start guide that says get started with video call. So actually what Agora allows you to do is create video calls and all kinds of really cool features, such as basically a voice or video calling app where you can modify the voice. And we're just going to use this modification of the voice feature because it's very easy to create a clone, like Talking Tom, for example. You might know the very funny application where you could, well, basically talk like a cat, so to speak, with the voice changing application. So you can go through this if you want to, but I'm just going to directly show you what we are going to require, and that is the dependencies. So we want to add this implementation link here. So dependencies implementation. So we need to go to our project name app file. All right, let's do that. Let's go to project, and under Gradle scripts, we have our project file. So let's go over to dependencies and add this dependency at the bottom down here. I'm just going to add it at the top of the dependencies themselves. So this particular dependency gives us all access to all Agora features, not just the voice effect. There are other ways we can get the Agora SDK to our project, but having to try out all the other methods, I found out that this is the easiest way. So now let's just replace X, Y, and Z with the version that I'm going to use. And in my case, it's going to be 3.6.2. And then click on sync now to sync it. Now, whenever you want to work with something that needs an internet connection, you also need to add something to the Android manifest. So let's add the permissions that we're going to require, which is going to be the internet permission, recording audio, modifying audio settings, as well as accessing network state. Now, as we are working with permissions, we need to make sure that we can access those permissions via code. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new object for that. And Kotlin class file, I'm going to use an object here, and I'm going to call this one common utils, which is going to be the common utility object, in which, first of all, I need a constant that allows me to have a request code. So I'm just going to create this request code of, let's say, 10. Next, I need to define an array with the different permissions. So permissions required, array of the different manifest permissions. In order to use those, I obviously need to also import the manifest Android. Then we need a function to request permissions. And as you see here, I have a context, the activity compat, and the activity, which are all classes that we need to add as namespaces up here as well. So this will allow us to use our request code that we set up here to use the permissions required that we set up here. And finally, we need to set up a function which will check whether we have those permissions. Therefore, again, we need the context compat and the package manager to be imported to our project. Okay, so now that we have all of the permissions sorted out, let's go ahead and set up the class that will help us to join a channel as well as select the voice effect. So let's go ahead and create a new Kotlin class called RTC Engine Utils. Now this class needs a constructor, so I'm gonna have a private variable called engine, which will be the RTC engine, which we can find in the namespace. Which we can find in the RTC namespace. And then we need the context. Here we will just have the function that allows us to join a channel. And we need to make sure that we pass the channel ID to it. At this point, we will need the access token. In order to get an access token, we need to go to AgoraIO. And here you can get started for free. So it's a really cool tool which allows you to build a community and connection into your application. So you can change the voice, you can build a broadcasting app, a chat app, and so forth. I'm going to show you some really cool ideas with what you can do with AgoraIO later on. But for now, let's get started. And please use the URL that I'm going to add in the description below to show our sponsor that we were the ones that were referring to you. Without the sponsor, this video wouldn't be possible. So thanks a lot to AgoraIO, and thanks a lot to those of you who are using our link. You can see that you get 10,000 minutes free every month, which is quite a bit. Once you're signed in, you are asked to create your first project. I'm going to call this one Talking Tom Clone, as well as in the use case using tutoring as the use case. Agora then requests for audio rights as well as video rights, as you can see here. And once you give that, you can see yourself on the screen. You can try the demo, but you can also skip it if you feel like it. At this point, you can just go to the documentation to learn more about that if you feel like it, and otherwise just click on Add Card. Here you can set up your credit card settings, but as you've seen earlier, it's free for testing, which is amazing. Now here you will find your projects under Overview. You can go to Config, and there you can generate a temporary RTC token. Here you have your app certificate and the app ID, and you can enter a channel name, whichever you want. So in my case, Tutorialseu is going to be the channel name, and then generate a token. So this will be the token that I can use for 24 hours because it expires tomorrow at exactly the same time that I'm at now. Now is a great time to also copy this token. So click on copy and go back to your project. I'm just going to store my token inside of my resources. So I'm just going to create a new string. I'm going to call it Agora access token and enter my access token in here. All right. So here you see we will need the channel ID, and we will allow the user to enter the channel ID as you have seen in the user interface. All right. Now back in our RTC engine utils, we can go ahead and use our engine to, for example, set the channel profile. And here I'm just going to use constants.channel profile live broadcasting, because that's what we're going to do. Then I'm going to use the channel to set the client role. And as the client role, I will need to pass the iRTC engine event handler, which is another import that we need to make here. So iRTC engine event handler dot client role dot, and here you can select between the audience and broadcaster. And I'm just going to say I'm going to be the broadcaster once I joined the channel. Then I'm going to require the token, which I can get from my strings that I created. So in my case, it's the access token that I have inside of my string file. So it's this one here. Now in order to allow our user to join the channel, we need the media options, and we can set those up with the channel media options class and set the media options to auto subscribe audio, which will directly give the user an unique user ID. At this point, we can use our engine here to join the channel. So here we need to pass in the access token, the channel ID, then optional info, for example, extra optional data that we can pass, as well as an optional user ID. And then we have the media option, which we just created up here. At this point, we can check if res, so the result of this joining the channel, worked or not. So if it was not null, we're going to log the error. And then we can change the audio effect. So here, to do change audio effect, which we still need to set up, obviously. Now, in order to join a channel, we're going to use this little icon here. Once it's clicked, we will join the channel. So we need to add the click event. Therefore, inside of our main view, let's go ahead and set up our join channel, which will just be a lambda. Now at this point, our user interface needs to be changed as well. So we had our row in which we have our image. So here, this image now needs to have a clickable event. So here, inside of our brackets, that's where we can now join the channel. Now we get two errors. One is going to be at the bottom in the preview because we only pass the text state, but nothing else. We can just pass empty brackets here, so nothing, an empty method, so to speak. And then we have another one here at the top inside of our onCreate method. And for that, we need to set up a couple of variables. So we need to set up a reference to our engine as well as to our RTC engine utils. So here I'm going to have the private var engine, which is going to be an RTC engine nullable, which I'm going to set to null. And then we will have our late init var RTC engine utils, which gives me a reference to my RTC engine utils class that we set up earlier. We will also need to initialize our engine. So let's set up a method that allows us to do so. So just inside of still our main activity. So here I'm going to create this function, initialize engine. So this should try to create an RTC engine instance for us. In case we're going to get an error, we're just going to catch it. So inside here, we can set our RTC engine utils. So we're just going to say RTC engine utils, which is this public constructor. We're passing our engine and we're passing the application context. So you might recall that's what we needed for our RTC engine utils up here. Now this by itself would crash because we don't have the engine yet. So let's set up the engine as well. And the engine is going to be an RTC engine, which we create with the application context, the app ID, and the RTC handler. So where do we get those from? Well, we get them directly from Agora. Now you can also go to your overview and just copy it from here. I'm going to store it in a string again, so in a string resource. So let's go ahead and create a string here with Agora app ID as the name and the app ID as the string content. So I'm just going to get the string resource. But what is this RTC handler? Well, that's the next thing that we need to set up. We need an iRTC engine event handler. Therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new class here, which I'm going to call RTC engine event handler. Now this will inherit from the iRTC engine event handler, which is another package that we need to add. So here, iRTC engine event handler. Now it needs a couple of additional parameters here. First of all, the message, then and then whether has joined. So it's going to be set message and set has joined. Now at this point, our IDE is going to complain, but you can press Ctrl O and implement warning, error, join channel, on join channel success, on leave channel, and on user joined. And then we're going to change to constructor invocation. But back in our main activity, we can now use an RTC engine handler. So let's go ahead, val RTC handler, which will be our RTC engine event handler. I'm going to also set the message as well as set has joined for our RTC event handler using logs. So this is just a lambda that's going to be executed. So we're going to get it from the RTC handler message and the set has joined value as the set has joined value. Now we can initialize our engine inside of our main activity. And I'm going to do it just before I set the content. And now we can also pass the details to our main view. And the details that were missing were the join channel details. So we need to use our lambda here, which is just going to be using the RTC engine utils to join the channel with whatever the user has entered inside of the added text. So here value.text.trim. Okay, at this point, we need to make sure that whenever we are clicking onto our image, we are checking if we have the permission to even do something. So we're trying to join the channel right here, but this will only work if we have the permission. So we need to check if common utils dot has permission where the context is true, only then can we join the channel. And otherwise, we will request the permission. So common utils dot request permission with the current context. Now this context will be the local current context. So let's set it up. And I'm going to do that at the top of my main view here. I'm going to get the context from the local context. All right, so now in order to test it, I had to try different things. And the problem now is that the emulator doesn't work properly, at least not for me. Maybe it works for you, but I have constantly problems with the default emulator that comes with Visual Studio. That's why I'm testing it with multiple devices. So I have a phone here and another phone here. I'm going to run it with the Android Studio available here. So I'm using my fold. Okay, let me check. I'm using my fold here. So I'm entering the username or the channel name, Tutorialseu 3, joining it. Okay, now I'm joined. And this phone here, I already connected to Tutorialseu 3 as well. And the thing is, it also asks for permission when you install it the first time. All right, and now you can hear probably, wait a second. So you can probably hear it in the background because I'm connected. So at this point, well, you can hear me twice now, like for the different channels. So through my browser, you can hear the, wait a second. A good test is always to just blow into the microphone to see which one is the broadcaster. Yeah, that's the broadcaster. So the fold is the broadcaster. And this one is a receiver. And if I put it here now, you can hear that it comes from here as well. Well, not so much because I have some compression and stuff, so the audio is not being delivered if it's not coming directly from my mouth, directly here. But it works. So now it's time to to close the app on all devices because it's super loud. And then add the audio effect. So changing the audio effect of adding Hulk and so forth. All right, so now let's go ahead and add the actual audio effect that I was talking about. So therefore, I will need to make changes to my RTC engine utils. So here at the very bottom, that's where I said we would change the audio effect. So there is something called set audio presets. So we can go ahead and set engine to set audio effect preset where we pass constants dot, and then there is the voice changer effect Hulk, for example. So you see old man, sister, uncle, all the good stuff. And I'm just going to use Hulk here so that we have this preset for Hulk. So now instead of my original voice, you will hear the Hulk effect. So if you want to know more about constants, you can jump here and you will see that there are a bunch of constants. So audio equalizing band, the voice, beauty special or spatial, general beauty voice, female vitality. So there are a bunch of different options that are made available. And the one that we're using is going to be the Hulk effect. So if you want to use a different one, just go through the constants and find one that you like. And now if we test it, you can hear me talk like the Hulk in the background. All right. So that's how we can set the audio. But now let's add the feature where the user can select which effect he wants to have. Therefore, let's go over to our main activity, and we had our main view and it's around here. So here we needed to join the channel, but now I'm going to also set the audio effect here. All right, so it will require an int, so the audio effect we will want to use, and we're going to use a lambda expression here. Now, inside of our lazy columns, where we have the row, let me see, lazy column here, where we have our items inside, that's where we have this row, and there we can now set our audio effect for the clickable option. So here you see clickable, and on click, I'm going to call the method setAudioEffect, even though the method currently is empty and isn't defined or anything. So now let's go over to our common utils and create a method here, which is gonna get us the audio effects. Okay, so I'm just going to get 3 audio effects here. Let me show you. So I have the get audio effect preset method, which requires a label, and it's going to return an integer. And the integer will be based on the label. So if the label is voice changer effect boy, then it's going to use the constants voice changer, and here we need to use this constant IO Agora class. Okay, then it will be the voice changer effect boy, girl, and Hulk, and otherwise the effect will be turned off. Okay, now in the main activity, we can go back to this set audio effect, and here we can now use our common utils, and from that we can use the get audio effect preset. Now we need to pass in the label. Where do I get the label from? Well, therefore I'm just going to create a new file, and it will just be a data class, and I'm going to call this one audio effect item. Now this audio effect item will have an icon as well as a title. All right, and in here I'm just going to create an audio effect list. So effect list, which will be a list of my audio effect items. So here I'm just going to create the audio effect items with the different effects, which will be 3 drawables that I'm going to use. So I have these drawables IC boy, IC girl, and IC Hulk. So just copy and paste it from the final project, or use any images that you want to use. And then this should be fine here. So now we have this list of audio effects, and you see I'm just using 3 effects, but you can obviously go further and use as many effects as you want. Now, at this point, you see that our main activity is still not very happy because we didn't set the presets. So here we can now go ahead and use our audio effect list, where we say use the index.title. So the index of our row. So we're inside of this list. We get the index here in items, and that's the one that I'm going to use in here. So I'm going to get the title from it. Now for the image itself, I want to use a different resource because the image doesn't look too great. I want to instead use the resource that I have defined in my audio effect item. So here I'm just going to use audio effect list at the index, and there I use the icon. And then finally I'm going to change the text as well. So currently it just says list index, but instead I'm going to use audio effect list at the index position, and there I use the title as well. Now finally, we need to fix this bug up here where our main view that we're using, so this composable, isn't very happy because we are setting the text state and the join channel, but we also have a third parameter that we need to pass to main view as we had set it up here in the main view, right? We need to set the audio effect. So we can set the audio effect variable to be this lambda, where we just set the presets to be engine optional, because engine is an optional, set audio effect preset, which is the method that we created, and pass the preset to it. Okay, now at this point we also need to satisfy our preview. I'm going to add another empty unit here. So now let's run this on our emulator to just see how the UI has changed. We cannot change the name yet, so you see, we have the image now, and we have the voice changer effect boy, girl, and Hulk. But clicking on them doesn't do anything yet. So what we want to do is once we click on them, the text up here which says show text should change. So let's do that. Therefore, we need to go all the way up to our main view up here. We have the context, we have the scroll state. We also need to know which list item we selected. So selected index by remember, and this will be a mutable state of, and the value will be 0 by default. Now I need to do some imports, and then we should be good. So now inside of my lazy column, I'm going to set up inside of my row in clickable. So on click, I'm going to set the selected index to be whatever the index is. So whatever was clicked. So here, the items index. And then I'm going to set the background color to be based on the selected index. So selected index, then use color. And I'm going to use this light blue color, which is this one here. And otherwise, we're going to use white. Okay, so here just color.white. Now let's see if anything has changed, because now once we click on any given item, you see the color changes. So the background color of that row changes. Okay, now at the top here we see show text. That's what I want to change. So let's search for show text, and we see this is the text that I want to change. So how do we change it? Well, basically I'm just going to use my audio effect list, and I'm gonna get the selected index dot title. So it's going to be this selected index that we had created, this remember, which is just a variable that holds the selected item out of our list. Okay, now at this point we can run our application again, and now it should be working as intended. So let me run it on my fold first. And I'm logging in there and use it here to join and test. Now you see, now I'm a girl. Now I'm a boy. And now I'm the Hulk. So I'm testing this on my real world device, by the way, clicking on the different options. And here, this is the receiver. So my emulator is the receiver. And you can also see that the voice is selected here. So whatever we select is selected up here. So the sender, so the broadcaster, is the one deciding which voice is being sent. This emulator here is just a receiver, so its settings don't really matter, because at our point, whoever joins first is the broadcaster and can send whatever voice they want to send, and everyone else who's going to join is just going to be a receiver. Now at this point, I would recommend to implement everything that is missing inside of our RTC engine event handler. So in case you are facing any bugs or issues, here you can enter a bunch of logs to learn more about what's up. So for example, when joining a channel success, that's where you might want to display something to the user that he's joined. And then when he's leaving, you might want to display that he left the channel. Same, what should happen once a user joined. And yeah, the error and warning messages, as well as you can obviously override all kinds of other overrides that this interface has to offer. Alright, so now I would like to show you some really cool ideas using the interesting features that AgoraIO has to offer. So in case this video goes really crazy and gets a bunch of views and people register using the link, then we might actually do some of those ideas on this channel as well. So really help us out by hitting the like button and then we might get there. So first of all, the voice changing feature that we have implemented in this example. So you've seen how to do that and you see how to add a very nice little voice adjustment feature, which I think is really cool. You can also build something like a group video call and stream interaction. So make everyone feel like they are part of the action by bringing people together with interactive live streaming. Don't make the audience feel alone, connect them together in real time to each other. Agora's interactive live streaming audio and video SDK make it easy to personalize large-scale events that encourage real-time exchanges, creating deeper connections and driving revenue opportunities. So a game similar to old TV shows where one person asks a question and another one must click a button quickly and answer correctly, similar to Family Feud by Steve Harvey. This is possible by using the group call interaction feature, where we can code the game logic around it when users press a button. Then we have real-time messaging. So if you want to build an app-like MMO with a different channel for a party, guild, DM, etc., Among Us style chat system via text only, similar to the messaging window usually on the bottom left side of any MMO game, where users can send messages to different channels. That's something you could do with AgoraIO as well. Then the on-premise or cloud recording feature. You might need to build a simple CCTV system for your house, businesses, etc. using webcams or cheap Android phones. This would become a simple app that only records and saves the video captured in the cloud and could be reviewed anytime and anywhere. This is made possible by Agora's recording add-on service that lets people capture and record streaming audio and video to meet people's needs. And you could also maybe need an MCQ app, an app built on Unity where you can use the voice, audio and text chat features from AgoraIO. Or maybe an audio-only chat room Android application like Clubhouse, which includes features like joining or leaving a room, starting voice chats, and the host can even perform other channel management tasks to keep things running smoothly. And then maybe a group chat app, including features like joining a group, leaving a group, sending messages to the group, and so forth. So these were just a few ideas that we have for the AgoraIO SDK and what we can do with it. So if you think any of these ideas is cool, please let us know in the comments down below. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for still being with me. And if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button. It really helps us out. It enables us to create more of these videos. And also check out the sponsor if you haven't done so already or haven't followed along. You can find the link in the description. Please use our link in the description so that they know that you came via our video, because this also helps us out. So thanks a lot for that. And I hope to see you in my other videos, because we have a bunch of really cool projects and a bunch more coming up. So Yannick joined the team, as you might have seen, and he has a bunch of really cool ideas and he's working on them. So there will be a lot more content in the near future. So have a nice day. Thanks a lot to AgoraIO and see you in the next video.